Next, we are going to look at how we can control the flow of the animation, namely start, pause, resume, seek, reverse, and restart. To demonstrate this, we want 6 buttons. Go to index.html and inside a div, we create start button. We give it an ID also of the same name, start. Next is pause, then resume, seek, reverse, and restart. I'm also adding here a horizontal rule to separate the animation and the buttons. And above this div, I am adding a spacer, which we have already created in one of the previous lecture. Let us increase the space. Go to style.css and find the spacer class and increase the margin, let's say 300 pixels. You can give it any value according to your liking. Head back to index.js and add those buttons such as start, pause, resume, seek, reverse, and restart into this code. Let us add an event listener for the start button first. So when the user clicks on the start button, the animation will be played. So start.add event listener. Within the callback function, we add master.play. This will start or initiate the animation. Before that, we should set the paused property inside the master timeline configuration to true so that the animation won't be played unless it's been initiated by us. We will discuss more about the configuration properties for this later in this lecture. Now head over to front page and click the play button and it will play the animation. Perfect. The next method is the pause method. Pause.add event listener. Within the callback function, we add master.pause. This will pause the animation at the same time of the click event. Let us try that out. Click on start to start the animation and pause at a random position. And it's been paused. You can resume the animation by clicking on the start button, but it's not going to work while the reverse functionality is in effect. For that reason, we use resume. Like start and pause, we add an event listener, and inside the callback function, we add master.resume. So this will resume the animation despite reverse functionality in effect while animation is on the fly. The next method is the seek method. The seek method in GSAP is used to jump to a specific time of the entire animation. As we know that each tween will be played for 1 second as we defined in the duration, add all these durations and you will come up with the total duration of the entire animation. So if you put 3, the animation will be sought to the 3rd second and start playing from there. So we add an event listener like the previous methods. Inside the callback function, we call seek. In the brace, we specify the time. I'm adding 1 for this example. So when I click seek, the animation will start from the 1st second of the timeline. We press start to begin the animation as it goes. When you press seek, no matter at what time or position the animation is at, as soon as we press the seek button, it will start from that specified time. Let's say if you want to add 2, this will start the animation at the seconds onward. Next is reverse method. This will reverse the animation. Let's add an event listener like before. Here we put master.reverse. Let's see this in action. We click start to start the animation. At a random position, I click the reverse button. As you can see here, the movement of the object has been reversed. Next is restart. This will restart the entire timeline. Add an event listener, and inside the callback function, we put master.restart. Let us see this in action. The animation will be restarted as soon as I click the restart button. Timeline also receives default values. All you need to do is go to specific timeline, and inside you create configuration for defaults. For the demonstration, I'm setting the duration to 2 and remove the duration properties from each tween so that the default values will be applied. To distinguish this timeline from the rest, I am also setting an ease property and its value to steps function. And inside the function, I'm putting 12. This steps 12 will take 12 steps within the timeline to complete. This sort of gives a frame skipping effect. Let's head over to the master timeline configuration. Here you can also add certain properties. For now, I'm setting here the yo-yo and the repeat properties. For repeat, I'm setting it to 2. As an identifier, you can give each timeline a label. Here for each function which constitutes a timeline, I'm giving the same name as its respective function. The advantage of labeling your timeline is that we can call the timeline and play it whenever we want, either by an event listener or by a result of an operation. So to demonstrate this, I'm going to create a button and call the outro by label using the click event. Go to index.html and add a button called outro with the same name for ID but lowercase after the restart button. Back to index.js, create an object for the button. I'm giving it a name outro btn. And I click event listener for this button. And inside the callback function, we add master.play. Within the method, we add the label that we would like to play. In this case, I'm adding the outro. Let us see this in action. Let me click the outro button. As you can see here that the circle object has been reversed after it finished its timeline. It is because we added repeat and yo-yo properties. So the function will continue to play if there is any setting in the master timeline. If there wasn't any master timeline, it would not play the next animation of the next timeline, so long as it has no relation to it. The tweens of the timeline will accept a third parameter. This could be a label or position of the tween regarding time. For example, if we put less than symbol within quotes, it will combine the current tween to the previous one. If we put minus equals 1, it produces the same effect as that of the less than symbol, but we can adjust the time by specifying the number of seconds which needs to be overlapped. In our example, we are simply putting 1. So 1 second will be reduced from the current tween, which will then combine with the previous tween. If we put plus equals 1, then the specific tween will be delayed by 1 second. Circling back to the master timeline. Here you also put on update, on complete properties, etc. Now I want to update a label when the timeline is repeated. So for that we have a property called onRepeat. This property will be triggered if the animation repeats. Go to index.html and create a label with ID label and value 0 outside of the button div. Back to index.js, create an object for label by selecting its ID. Inside the onRepeat properties callback function, we will update the label as the timeline repeats. So label.innerText equals parseInt label.innerText plus 1. Since the inner text is 0, after converting its type from string to integer, we can add 1 after each repeat. Let us see this in action. As you can see, the label is updating on repeat. Next is another way of adding an event callback method. For demo, I am updating the label based on the current timeline. So for that, instead of adding the onUpdate property inside the master timeline's configuration, we will add it outside by calling the event callback method from the master object. Before that, let us create a method called updateLabelName that will get the current timeline's label value and update the HTML label based on the current timeline label value. So current label equals master.currentLabel. This method will give us the name of the current label of the timeline. Label.innerText equals current label. This will apply the current label name to the label object. Coming back to the event callback method, the first parameter is the property you would like to update. In this case, it is onUpdate. And the next parameter is the callback function, which is updateLabelName. Let us see the result. As you can see, the label is updating.